Imagine being gifted insane super strength and still managing to mess everything up. That's Samson, and yes, this goes downhill fast. At the time, Israel is under Philistine control, not minor inconvenience control. Full domination, taxes, pressure, fear, the whole package. People are tired, they want relief, they want a hero, someone strong, someone decisive, someone who will actually fix things. What they get is Samson. On paper, he's perfect, chosen before birth, special mission, clear rules, incredible strength that makes absolutely no sense in a physics-based universe. He's supposed to be a deliverer, a long-term solution, a leader. Unfortunately, self-control is not part of the package. From the very beginning, the contrast is obvious. Samson has massive power. He has a clear purpose, and he has absolutely no impulse control. None. Zero. Negative, if that's possible. It's like giving a sports car to someone who hates brakes. Samson doesn't plan. He reacts. Something annoys him. He punches it. Someone challenges him. He escalates immediately. Every small situation turns into a personal showdown. And while that sounds impressive at first, it comes with a pattern. Every win creates two new problems. He's strong enough to dominate almost any fight, but disciplined enough to avoid exactly none of them. Advice? Ignored. Warnings? Dismissed. Rules? Optional. At best. He treats power like a toy, something to test, something to show off, something to use whenever his emotions spike, which is often. And the thing is, he's not confused about his calling. He knows he's special. He knows he has limits he's supposed to respect. He just doesn't think they apply in the moment. Future consequences are a problem for future Samson. Present Samson is busy doing whatever feels right. This creates a strange dynamic. Israel doesn't get a strategist. They don't get a unifier. They don't get someone building systems or stability. They get a one-man chaos event. Samson solves problems the same way every time. Show up, overreact, overpower, leave. No follow-up, no long-term thinking, no cleanup. It works briefly. And somehow, instead of learning, each victory reinforces the wrong lesson. Not maybe I should be careful, but this always works, so why stop? The warning signs are everywhere. Emotional decisions, unnecessary confrontations, pride-driven choices. And a growing sense that the biggest threat to Samson isn't the Philistines, it's Samson. And somehow it only gets worse. Samson doesn't fail because he lacks power. He fails because he never grows up. By now, the pattern is obvious. Whenever Samson feels challenged, annoyed, insulted, or mildly inconvenienced, he turns it into a fight. Not a strategic fight, not a necessary fight, a personal one. Pride flips the switch, and suddenly there's another conflict where there didn't need to be one. He doesn't de-escalate, he escalates, always. Someone pushes back, he pushes harder. Someone crosses a line, he erases the entire page. Battles stop being about Israel and start being about Samson's mood that day. The mission slowly disappears behind his ego. He's that one guy who turns every situation into a competition. Conversation, competition, disagreement, competition, slight disrespect, definitely a competition. And because he keeps winning, no one ever stops him. That's the problem. Samson wins fights easily, almost casually, and every time he does, he learns the wrong lesson. Not this could have gone badly. But see, this works. So he doubles down, again and again. Victory today, chaos tomorrow. Instead of stabilizing anything, he destabilizes everything. Instead of weakening Philistine control, he provokes retaliation. Instead of protecting people, he paints a bigger target on them. And he never notices because he's already moved on to the next emotional reaction. The core issue becomes clear pretty quickly. Samson never leads. He doesn't organize, he doesn't train anyone, he doesn't build systems or continuity. There's no plan, no structure, no legacy. Israel doesn't become stronger, it just survives the fallout. Samson works alone, he thinks alone, and when things go wrong, he fails alone. He solves moments, not problems. Immediate threats disappear, but nothing improves long-term. The pressure returns, the enemies regroup, the cycle repeats. And somehow Samson keeps acting surprised that nothing changes. Power without maturity becomes unpredictable, and unpredictable power doesn't create safety. It creates anxiety. You never know what will set it off. You never know who pays the price afterward. Samson never asks, what happens after this? He never asks, who does this affect? He never asks, is this actually helping anyone? He just reacts. Fast, loud, final. And that's what makes his story frustrating. Not because he's weak, but because he could have been effective, with restraint, with guidance, with even a little supervision. But he has none of that. And worse, he doesn't want it. By this point, everyone can see where this is heading. The patterns are locked in. The warnings are ignored. The mistakes are repeating with increasing confidence, and then he makes the decision everyone sees coming. Everyone sees the red flags. Everyone except Samson. This is the point where the audience wants to pause the story and say, don't do it. Unfortunately, Samson does it anyway. Delilah enters the picture, and immediately, nothing about the situation is subtle. She asks the same question, over and over. Where does your strength come from? What's the secret? How could someone like you ever be defeated? And instead of leaving, Samson stays. He jokes. He deflects. He turns it into a game. He gives fake answers, half-truths, dramatic stories that almost sound believable. And every time she asks again, the warning signs get louder. He hears them. He just doesn't care. It's like ignoring every warning sign, and then asking why things went wrong. From the outside, this is painfully obvious. Delilah isn't curious, she's persistent. She's not impressed. She's testing limits. And Samson, who has never been good with limits, keeps leaning closer to the edge. At this point, he's practically handing over the password. What makes it worse is that Samson isn't confused. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows the rules. He knows what he's risking. He just assumes the outcome will be the same as always. He'll be fine, he always is. That assumption finally breaks. Eventually, Samson stops joking. He stops dodging. He tells the truth. Not because he's forced to, not because he's trapped, but because he thinks nothing bad will happen. And that's the moment everything collapses. His strength disappears, not slowly, not dramatically, just gone. And with it, the confidence he's been leaning on his entire life. For the first time, Samson is normal, and he has no idea how to function that way. The consequences hit immediately. He's captured, not after a long chase, not after a heroic stand, just taken. The strongest man alive becomes completely powerless in a single night. He's humiliated, publicly, systematically. Everything that made him intimidating is stripped away. Then comes the final blow. He's blinded. The man who never looked ahead can no longer see at all. Unlimited power, zero awareness. Samson becomes a spectacle. The unstoppable force is now entertainment. The hero everyone waited for is reduced to a warning example. And for the first time in his life, there's nothing he can punch his way out of. No strength, no freedom, no control. And now, the hero has nothing left. The problem was never the hair. It was the lack of character. By this point, Samson's role has completely flipped. He's no longer a threat. He's entertainment. The strongest man anyone had ever seen is now brought out to amuse the very people he used to terrorize. The fear is gone. The respect is gone. All that's left is a spectacle. Once unstoppable, he's now completely dependent. He needs help to move, help to stand, help to exist. The man who never listened to anyone is now guided by others, step by step, slowly, carefully. And the irony is hard to miss. Strength without direction doesn't last. This is what raw power looks like without discipline behind it. Impressive for a moment, useless over time. Samson didn't lose because his enemies got smarter. He lost because his strength was never anchored to anything solid. And yet, something small starts to change. His hair begins to grow again, not in a dramatic, magical way. No glowing effects, no instant comeback montage. It just grows. Quietly, slowly, almost unnoticed. And for the first time, Samson is forced to wait. No shortcuts, no reactions, no explosions. This isn't about the hair itself. It never was. It's about the pause, the forced stillness, the moment where he can't act on impulse anymore, where power isn't immediately available to solve the problem. For once, Samson has to sit with the consequences. Then comes the final scene. The one everyone remembers. Samson is brought into a massive gathering, a celebration, a victory party for his enemies, the ultimate humiliation. He's positioned between the pillars. He asks to be placed there, framed as weakness, but really, it's the first deliberate move he's made in a long time. This time he knows exactly what he's doing. He pushes, the building collapses, the enemies die, and so does he. Problem solved. By destroying everything. It's effective, brutal, final, and completely on brand. Samson doesn't rebuild, he doesn't reform, he doesn't create something new. He ends the story the same way he lived it, one massive reaction that wipes the board clean. In the end, he does accomplish something meaningful. The threat is removed, the moment is decisive. But it comes at the highest possible cost. There's no future left to protect, no life left to live, no lesson passed on. The strongest man wins by not surviving. And that's what makes this ending uncomfortable. It works, but it also confirms everything that came before. Power, without character, eventually collapses inward. When there's no restraint, no growth, no self-awareness, the only way out is total destruction. It's not a triumph, it's a warning with a body count. But this ending raises an uncomfortable question. Samson wasn't a great hero. He was a powerful warning. Looking back, the pattern is impossible to ignore. Extreme strength? Yes. Unmatched physical ability? Absolutely. But maturity never showed up. Discipline never followed. And the long-term impact everyone hoped for never really happened. Samson didn't build anything. He didn't leave systems behind. He didn't make Israel stronger in a lasting way. What he left instead was a trail of moments, big moments, loud moments, violent moments. But moments don't hold a nation together. Strength alone isn't leadership. Power alone isn't protection. And raw ability without direction eventually turns against itself. That's what makes Samson's story feel oddly modern. Everyone knows someone like this. Someone incredibly talented, naturally gifted, the smartest in the room, the strongest on the team, the one who could do amazing things if they ever slowed down long enough to think. But they don't. Talent without discipline becomes dangerous, not always to others, but eventually to itself. Ability without responsibility always has a cost. Sometimes it's small, sometimes it's personal. Sometimes it collapses everything at once. Samson's strength didn't fail him, his habits did. He never learned to pause, never learned to listen, never learned to think past the next emotional reaction. Every problem looked like something to overpower. Every warning felt optional. And because he kept surviving the consequences, he assumed there wouldn't be any, until there were. In the end, Samson becomes the kind of person who is undeniably capable, but completely untrustworthy. You don't doubt what he can do, you doubt what he'll do next, and that's not heroism, that's volatility. Heroes create safety. Samson created uncertainty. Even his final act reflects that. It's effective, dramatic, and unforgettable. But it's also irreversible. There's no rebuilding afterward, no growth, no continuation. Just an ending that closes the story by removing everyone from it, including himself. And that's the core message buried inside all the spectacle. Samson didn't lose his strength. He never learned what to do with it. That's why his story sticks. Not because of how strong he was, but because of how avoidable the collapse was, with guidance, with restraint. With even a small amount of self-awareness, the outcome could have been completely different. But that wouldn't be Samson's story. This isn't a tale about muscles or miracles. It's about what happens when power shows up before character does, when ability arrives before wisdom, when someone is trusted with too much before they're ready to carry it. And that's why Samson isn't remembered as the best hero. He's remembered as the clearest example of what not to do with power. So now the obvious question, who should I break down next? David, Jonah, or Solomon?